Alright guys, it's part 2 of the Great Eastern Cutlery Rendezvous. Welcome to the channel. My name's Jeff Bailey once again. Picking up right where we left off, skip the intro, get right to the knife. This is the, as you can see by this special label, which is super cool, Special Factory Assembly. That's a better way of putting it than parts knives. This is a knife that was put together, the Great Eastern Cutlery Factory, in small numbers using parts that were not all from a specific individual run. This one caught my eye in the case. I wanted to get something that was special besides the Rendezvous knife itself, and I saw this guy on the counter, and maybe it's just me, but I thought this was a good looking knife. Now, I'm not normally the biggest acrylics fan. Get some of this oil off here. But something about this 48 with this white, just pure white acrylic, and its two blades with houndstooth shield, this combo I thought was just hitting on all cylinders. The way those blades sit with those two nail nicks right there, this is just a sleek knife. Really pleased with it when I saw it. I really liked the look of this knife. And the bonus fun part here is that this is something like 1 of 9. This is very exclusive that they made just to kind of have some more interesting stuff at the Rendezvous. This has got the really nice Wharncliffe that looks a lot to me like the Wharncliffe on the Vipers, satin finish. Great Eastern Cutlery, Titusville Iron Works. I don't know that I've seen that exact tank stamp before. But you got that blade, you got your long, slender, straight edge, awesome swedge going down there, traditional nail nick, no nonsense kind of Tidioute styling with the satin finish there, with a half stop, and then pair that up with a long clip, kind of like the blade for the 38 Special, but kind of a different profile. It doesn't get quite as narrow. So you've got this long straight with a little bit of belly on the end. Same type of swedge, same styling. Got that exclusive model number. And Tidioute Cutlery, made in USA. Really cool. I did notice that mine actually has even got, I don't know if this is something that I could WD-40 off there, but it looks like there's just a little bit of some oil here along the back or something, maybe from the buffing process that I might have to see if I can work out. I don't want to cause a problem. I've not had a lot of acrylic knives, and maybe that's just something about acrylic. Just really sleek and smooth. You know, it reminds me of like one of those, like a tasteful sports car. It's just got really nice simplicity but style with it. You know, I already have a couple of 48s, but this one just stood out to me, and the fact that it was exclusive just made it all that much more interesting. So, what else can we talk about the Rendezvous? Met a lot of cool people at the Rendezvous. A lot of my friends from Blade Forums putting faces to names. Great meeting all of you, if any of you guys are watching. I got to meet a few big names out there. Of course, a lot of you guys probably are aware of the T.C. Barlow, which is a child of the mind of longtime Barlow collector and knife aficionado Charlie Campagna. He was there. Got to see some of his personal Barlow collection, talk about his interest in knives, and really great guy to talk with, funny guy. Great experience. Great guy to talk to if you get the chance. Really down to earth. Got to talk to, of course, the man I mentioned in the previous video, Bill Howard, President and CEO of Great Eastern. Talked to him on the tour, asked questions, tucked a few tidbits away for tips on finishing and cleaning and working with your knives, which I will have to file away for later, getting that personal look into the process that goes into each and every knife. In case any of you are interested, and I thought this number was astounding considering like the clear level of effort and the number of steps in each one of the processes for these knives, but there's only something like 50 minutes of man hours into a given knife, into each and every individual knife. And that to me is impressive. Could you imagine turning raw materials into this in 50 minutes? They have that down to a science over there. And each and every step is so precise and so made efficient and clear. Individual steps saved where they could, but no loss of attention to detail as they work through these. There's some little features I learned about on the tour that I thought would be cool to share with you guys. Of course, as you know, great heat treat on this stainless steel. This one's $10.95, but the stainless steel that comes out of Great Eastern, that's actually done. I can't remember the name of the town, but it's done local. There's a shop that they have there, both their blades and their springs heat treated. And if memory serves, the blades end up being close to 60 or around 60 RC hardness on the Rockwell scale. And the springs are much softer. They're something like 50, maybe even lower than that. And one of the steps in the process is, because you might think, well, what happens if you have that softer steel, you know, working against that harder steel as these parts move and, you know, come together, and there's friction there, you know, at the pivots. What's that going to do over time? Well, they actually have a step in the process where the blades are inserted into a big wheel. So imagine this blade not attached to the knife, and the tang here, so it's starting right about here and down, and then of course this extends in here to go around the pivot pin. This portion gets passed through very quickly, again, not the tip this end, but if you just imagine, gets passed very quickly, like in between a induction heating element. And what they do is heat very quickly just the tang portion here to the word's escaping me now, but to alter the temper of the tang and the tang alone such that it becomes softer, and there's actually a transition from the hard metal here on the blade down to match the temper of the spring, so you have equal hardened parts moving against each other, and that gives you longer lasting spring life and less wear. And so my question to Bill was, well, how do you prevent damaging the heat treatment that we all love on their blades? Because if it's hot enough to just pass through there and do that, that seems like that'd be really easy. And basically it's a calibration step as they start working on a knife. They will Rockwell hardness test the area around the pivot. They do at least 1 or 2 places here on the tang, and they actually test a few places up here the blade to make sure that heat hasn't traveled. And an added step of strength that adds, they said, is right here at the shoulder where that plunge grind comes down and gets that beautiful satin grind here on the knives down to that really thin, really thin behind the edge. That's a structural point of weakness there. But because that temper gets altered a little bit and it's a little bit softer here than it is only like here, this makes this weak point less brittle, so you end up with a blade that's less likely to snap at that grind point because this is more likely to flex in a worst case scenario. Really, just small details like that really added to what impresses me about Great Eastern Cutlery knives. Each and every knife is tested and worked by hand, so they peen these by hand for the construction, and then they test. They test that it's got the good walk and talk. It's not too stiff. It's not too loose, and they make adjustments there by hand on a tiny anvil. They'll hammer here at the tang, test again. If they've done too much, they'll revisit this, test again. They had a little block of wood there that they used to sort of, push against like this, and then of course blade side down, push against it, like this kind of motion, where they would do this. If you imagine a block of wood here instead of my tailgate, that block of wood had a valley dug in it from all the repetitions that was done on. on down through the shields. I got to see how they actually take their shields, huge wall with just little Tupperware jars full of all their different shields, which is super cool to see. And they actually have a machine that welds a hat pin style pin to the underside of the shield, which is what they use to insert here and drill. We won't be able to see it, but in there, drill that hole and then fit that appropriately there. Really, really cool, fine detail stuff that you just aren't getting everywhere else. And the quality control, I'm going to talk about that in another video. The little things that cause their knives to fall out of their primary release distributed to dealers runs were really fascinating to me. Like I said, I'll get more into that, so stay tuned, subscribe, and you'll catch the next video I do on that, because I want to talk about those in a separate video. But the sharpening process, they have a lady whose her sole purpose is freehand. Now, freehand on a grinding wheel. She works each of these from the grinding, the bevels, again by hand here, and then basically power stropping them on a power wheel to hone the steel until they say they're I don't want to cut this actually, but the rule of thumb is she has to be able to take the knife and, using just the weight of the knife, draw across printer paper, and that blade should fall through. So the fact that she can do that by hand, I mean, straight edges are easier to sharpen than curved edges, but I think that she does a really great job, and it pains me that her name is escaping me, but really great job at getting very precise bevels by hand on each and every knife to come out of there. I mentioned Christine earlier. Ever notice how the handwriting on the tops of every single one of these tubes is the same? That is because that is, grab this one again, that is Christine's handwriting on every single one of these. Now, how hard would it be for them to print this, right? Easy. I mean, it's just you load the printer, you have your stock, done. But this, I think, is just another example of that kind of custom work that goes into every single one of these. The personal touch that is lost on so many other traditional knife makers that are making traditional pocket knives today. And it's a shame that's lost, but we're fortunate to have Great Eastern. Into the Rendezvous is a picnic where employees come together, spend time with customers, with each other. Customers spend time together. I saw Bill went around and spoke to every single person. He approached me and asked me, what did I think of the Rendezvous? Would I be back next year? Did it help me appreciate what went into the knives? I mean, this is a man who really cares about what he does and works hard to make sure his customers are satisfied. And honestly, just the time we spent with he and Charlie and myself, and amongst others, looking at different knives from people's collections, both Great Eastern and not, imagining new products that could come out, talking about innovations and different things that they could try to work and do things differently. Really pleasant time. Got to meet another knife YouTuber, probably you guys have heard of him, the Apostle P, Rob Bixby was there, so got to speak to him some, and that was fun. Just a great time. You know, if you're a fan of Great Eastern knives and you can make the trip up to Titusville next year when they do the Rendezvous, I would highly recommend it. You're not going to have a bad time. It's a weird sense of fellowship that happens there with people of literally all ages exchanging their interest in knives and having a good time together. So, hope you've liked these couple of videos we've done on Great Eastern's Rendezvous and Special Factory Assembly knives. Thanks so much. We hit 500 subscribers this past weekend while I was at the Rendezvous, which is amazing. I'm really excited. Yeah, don't know what else to say. Please continue to watch. I always appreciate your feedback in the comments. And we'll catch you next time.